Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of June 16th to June 22nd. Now, before we do any type of recap, breakdown, or anything along these lines, got a couple little things to just remind everybody. One, this is the final few days. It's not even a full week now. The final few days to book the BOGO Gemini season special. All you have to do is go to the website, www.thespirituallyboujee.com. Go to astrological services. Look for the one that says Gemini season BOGO special. You get two 90-minute sessions for the price of one. This is perfect for people that want to get in with me before we get into the Mercury retrograde and before we get into eclipse season, before we get into that next round of what our new normal is going to be looking like. Capitalize on this special while I have it, because I promise you this is the best special I will do all year. And you can book them out as far as you want to. I have people that are literally already booked out 6 months from now. That's not a joke. They know they want to come in June, or not June, it is June. Ha, ha, ha. They know they want to come in September and December. Like, they already know. So they're booked that far out. So there's that. Now, before I leave to go Oklahoma City, I will be taking that off of the website. That's why I keep saying you have until Friday, because next weekend, going into item number 2, I start going out of town for events again. Oklahoma City is going to be June 21st and 22nd. I will be at the Spirit Fair with Cindy there in Midwest City. It's going to be a 2-day event. So come out and get readings on all sorts of levels. I, of course, will be doing astrology readings. There will be tarot readers. There will be energy healers. There will be sound bath. There will be teachers. There's so much going on. And then there will also be all sorts of merchants that have their own personalized goods and tinctures and stuff that they sell. So make sure you, if you are in that Oklahoma City area, come out and see me at the Spirit Fair. The weekend after that, on June 28th, I will be at the Oddities Market in Denton, Texas, for my DFW people that hound me all the friggin' time. Dusty, when you're coming back to Texas, look, this is the best event I have found so far that is worth it for me. So everything else is taking me to like Austin or San Antonio or Waco, and just way, way past DFW. So for my spoiled DFW people, I will be there the weekend of the 28th. Plans will start getting posted on my personal social media. Okay. We'll start getting it figured out. Beyond that, let's do a quick little recap. Let's talk about the recent energy. And it's not just last week, it is all the recent energy. But last week was a very big week for a lot of people. And some of the key things I said in the intro of last week's episode suddenly hit my DMs. Like, hey, did you see this yet? Hey, did you see this yet? Hey, did you see this yet? No, because I'm busy, but thank you for sending it, because it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to go search for stuff. There has been a turn in the energy, an arrival in this turn that is, again, an ending and simultaneously a new beginning for the collective. Now, a couple things I said to pay attention to. One, the boycotts, the riots. I couldn't remember the word protest. Really, the right word was protest, but we had a lot of energy toward protest. Now, whenever I was saying that last weekend, I didn't realize how many protests were calendared in for the weekend. I know it now, but I did not know that actually beforehand, because a lot of you had to DM me going, there's protests like all over the place, right? Like, no, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's Pride Month, and I've been so busy that I've been busy, just putting it that way. 2, we had the things between Israel and Iran that popped up. We had the bombings that started to take place, and the initial energies of like us getting involved, us as in the United States, getting involved in stuff that we don't need to get into. But yet here we are. There's going to be something more that ties to that vibration as we go through this next week. Just FYI. I am not surprised by the Israel thing, honestly, just because that 28 degree of Leo is very important for Israel. So I'm really not surprised that something happened, but it wasn't in the forefront of my mind last week whenever I did the forecast. And then, of course, beyond that, we had the assassinations with the Minnesota lawmakers. So again, people in positions of authority, things going on with the government, things going on with the military. things were happening. I knew part of those going into the vibration, but I didn't know all of it. And at the time that I'm recording this, I'm actually recording this the morning of Sunday, June 15th. I haven't seen all of the news yet. I'll be honest. I was tired after everything this weekend. So I send me the links. Y'all know what to do. Just send me the links. Send me whatever you have had, you found that you've ran into, because that makes it a lot easier for me. Okay. But all of that vibration also had mundane effects. It also had effect in our individual lives. We're at a turning point of no longer accepting old ways of doing things, no longer wanting to sit still, no longer wanting to be in a prior funk, in a prior mentality, in a prior situation. And whether it was chosen or not, some of it was forced, certain things arrived, certain things that came through unexpectedly, certain turns of events, certain turns in the vibration that are meant to allow for something new to start to take shape. For some of us, the new already happened. And the big thing that I was saying last week is like, this feels like this week, as in last week, felt like the flick of the first domino. But we had to see the rest of the lineup. We had to see the players. I know whenever we're talking about flicking of dominoes, they're not necessarily players, but individual dominoes can be players and events. There was a flick of something. Something started. Now, for some of us in the most mundane effect, it was a challenge rising to the occasion. The risk was exciting. I want to do this. Some kind of energy vibration came through that it almost, felt like a challenge. It gave life again. Yes, I want to do that. I want to handle that. I want to feel that. I want to be a part of that. I want to join that. I want to do that. I want to accomplish that. And again, something exciting. For other people, it was judgment. It was frustrating. It was harsh vibration, because even though Jupiter went into Cancer and it went into this place of exaltation, it started with a kick from Saturn, that square, that hard 90-degree angle, the challenge, the push, the frustration. But the challenge, the push, the frustration, it was a part of that vibration of it's time for something new. Because again, Saturn rules time. And there's square happening at the beginning of these cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are also about new things. There's more than one new thing coming through, being seen, being understood. Now, as we go through the new vibration, there will be the need for new rules and new boundaries and new understanding. And that's going to be a big part of this week. Because we go into this week, we start this week with Mars going into Virgo. Holy crap. Mars is going into Virgo. Let's put something into perspective real quick whenever it comes to Mars and Virgo. And then I'll actually talk about like what he's going to be doing. We have had nothing but Mars in Leo and Cancer since last September. That's it. That's the only two signs he's been in. He was direct all the way until December 6th, turned retrograde in Leo, went back into Cancer, caused a big old mess. That was January, February, turned direct. And then in his signs, we had Venus and Mercury turn retrograde, which felt like a reaction to everything that Mars had done. And then by the time those two were done, Mars finally went back into Leo. And we are just now, June now, finally going to be dealing with the god of war in a different area of the sky. Now, Virgo is about being of service. It is a mercurial sign. It's about communication, but it's the earth form of communication. So whatever he's going to be starting to disrupt this week is going to require new rules, new ideas, new ways of thinking, new ways of speaking. And this first little part of Mars in Virgo, as much as it can be disruptive because it is the god of war, and whenever he comes through, it is either chaos or pivotal vibration. I do not have a better way to describe him. My hope is that for most people, when Mars goes into Virgo, the first part of the vibration is pivotal. Because right now I'm looking at the condition of Mercury. Mercury will be hosting Mars in Virgo. Mars will be in Virgo all the way until August. So through the retrograde that I keep warning about, like big neon letters, it's going to happen. But this first little bit, it's Mercury in Cancer, Mercury not in shadow, but willing to talk through our emotions, talk through our needs, talk through our desires, what we need to feel nurtured, what we need to feel safe, what we need to feel like home. And in some ways, the initial reaction of Mars going into Virgo, it is going to be creating the new rules. Understanding that sometimes for us to understand these new guidelines of this new dynamic, because that's exactly what we're doing. It's the new guidelines of the new dynamic. Some people are going to get their feelings hurt. They're going to get their feathers ruffled a little bit, but it's not going to be on purpose. It's because we don't know where we're at. There is still elements towards confusion this week. Put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it, keeping it going. That's the more positive way to look at the start of Mars in Virgo. But not everybody had sunshine and rainbows the last few weeks. Some of y'all got fired, got let go. You had it out with the boss. You had it out with your parents. You had it out with that narcissistic ex. You had it out with your best friend. And the vibration speaks to Mars in Virgo. There's going to be a certain amount of truths for some that need to finally come to light. For other people, there is going to be a reaction that is going to impact how we are of service, how we care for certain people, how we have done certain things in the past, and how we will be doing them moving forward. There's going to be a need that starts this week, again, for the new rules, the new guidelines, the new way of doing things. And if we can't come to proper terms, which in this first week, I do not feel like we will, then it is going to have a ripple effect for how the rest of the summer is going to go. Now, if you've had a good boss situation, you've had good situations with people in positions of authority that they're making positive changes, then it's just letting the guidelines and the new actions take place. Some of us, we are the drivers in situations of allowing certain things, like starting from here, we do it this way. This is the new policy. This is the new beginning. It's going to be a hell of a time to be in HR, that's for sure. But for other people, it's something bigger. And then again, over the course of the summer, we have these other energies that speak to protests. But the protests that I'm referring to moving through the rest of the summer, it is not necessarily tied to like what we just dealt with over the weekend. It's more to enact change, reveal change. And this will be the first week where we need to reveal some things towards change. But at the beginning, and this week is that beginning, we don't know what we don't know. And there's going to be things that speak to confusion. Remember that pin I said a little bit ago? We're going to pull it out. Why do I say the confusion? Why did I put a pin in this? Because of the dominant vibration of this week. Jupiter is still in its square to Saturn. But in the midst of that square with Saturn, we are now going to have our perfection of the Neptune square. Now, y'all know how I feel about Neptune. Many of you do. I know I got new people listening. I'll be honest. Neptune is an ass. He is a giant ass. 25 to 30% of the time, it's more along the lines of like faith and spirituality and inspiration. The other parts of the times, it's going to have to do with like the effects. And that can literally mean like effects on the body, by the way. I mean, the effects, or it can be like, drug use effects. That can be a big part of it too. But the other percentage, the larger of the percentage, lies, fraud, and deception. Not a fan of that. Neptune is going to have a very heavy hand with how this week goes. And some of the conversations that are had will not make perfect sense. And there is the potential later on, by the end of the summer, by the way, that we feel like whatever got told to us this week, the promise of this week is going to be a lie. There's something about the conversations that we're having this week that we are not completely seeing clearly. Because one, Saturn and Neptune are getting to their closest points over the course of the next few weeks, not just this week, but the next few. They're getting the closest point that they're going to get this year. They will be less than a degree apart, but their actual conjunction does not happen this year. It happens in 2026. But Neptune is going to hit that square to Jupiter. Whenever it comes to that square with Jupiter, Neptune is in the higher authority in that conjunction to Saturn, fueling ideas, fueling faiths. For some people, it will be inspirational, spiritual growth. It will have to do with our beliefs. For some people, it'll be a little bit of nostalgia, that blast from the past, teaching us, showing us more things, allowing different things to come through. And that all feels very hopeful. That can have potential. It's okay whenever that is the vibration to have your head in the clouds of, oh, this feels just so wonderful. Just remember, it will not always be sunshine and rainbows. And at some point, we will have to come back to reality if you're going in the positive light. Okay. But if you're you're in the positive, enjoy it while you have it. However, the other side of this feels like delusion, lies, fraud, clouded judgment, versions of the truth. And I've had to say this to a couple people lately. When we were teenagers, just going off that as an example, I don't know why I'm picking on all the teenagers lately, but because I've used teenagers in other examples, but think of it this way. We told our parents versions of the truth. Yeah, Mom, I just want to go stay the night at Sally's this weekend. Oh, we're just going to have a bonfire. Yeah, it's just me and the boys hanging out. We're going to go over here. It's going to be so much fun, but it's just us dudes. No, it's not. All 5 friends told each of their parents a version of the truth. I'm going to be at Bobby's. Bobby's going to be at Billy's. Billy's telling his parents he's at my house and da-da-da-da-da-da. And all of you end up in a field around a bonfire in the middle of nowhere. And none of your parents know what's going on. The version of the truth is you did stay the night with Bobby and Billy and Sally and Susie or whoever. You did, but not at their parents' house. So you can tell a version of the truth without revealing everything. A big part of this week is knowing that some of the information that is said, some of the stories, some of the conversations, some of the agreements, some of what's starting to come through will not be completely real, will not be completely true. They will be that version of events, that version of the truth. And some of us, as we move forward from this week, the 16th through the 22nd, as we move forward after hearing that vibration, we will move forward with that version of the truth. Anything that you do this week that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Cross your I's, dot your T's, do whatever you can to get as perfect clarity as possible. Get it in writing, take the screenshots. You know, I'm infamous for saying that later on, be like, okay, you remember we did this, 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 and this? Yeah. Go back and look at your screenshots. Yeah, CYA mentality. Cover your ass. Be aware of the conversations. Be aware of what's being communicated. Because some of what's starting to influence us this week, it's a version of the truth, a version of the story. It's their version, not the whole version. Because sometimes when we tell the whole story, it makes us look like an asshole. But if I tell you just one version of it, I smell like sunshine and rainbows. It's great. It's great. Be aware of the versions of the truth this week because they can influence how the rest of the summer is going to go. Because we believe one event, we believe one story, we believe this side, we believe the commitment, we believe the paperwork, we believe one thing. But some of what we believe will only fuel us forward for so long. So be aware of that. Okay. Let's get in the week. Let's get in the transits. Let's get into this messy. It's not that messy. It actually doesn't feel messy. A lot of this week doesn't feel super crazy. It's more of a mental energy all week. That's what I keep feeling. A mental and emotional, depending on the situation. Now, first things first, we are going to start this Monday morning. We got two things going on simultaneously. So I've got this now at the 6:30 a.m. spot. What are the two things going on? One, the moon in Aquarius, 2619, is going to go through a sextile to Chiron and simultaneously a trine with the sun. Now, the trine with the sun is first. It's felt the most exact between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. The sextile between the moon and Chiron is 5:30 to 7:30. Now, on Tuesday, the sun and Chiron will hit their exact sextile. The moon coming into this kind of feels like an influence towards something of how we fix something, how we heal something, what we need to take care of, something that it can impact fathers because it is the sun, the ego because it is the sun. There can be some that kind of feel like a reality check for certain people. And if we have been dealing with stubborn energy over the weekend, sometimes reality checks are necessary. Okay. Talking about the solution, talking about the fix, talking about the potential, hearing more than one side of the story. Some of us, we have the solution. The other person doesn't want to listen. Some of us, we are the third party coming in going, hey, I heard something is broken. Yeah, I've got an idea of how to fix it, but I can't get so-and-so on the phone. Now, are we doing that all between 4 and 7 a.m. in the morning? No, but it can be one part of the energy that takes the course of the day and it kind of plants the seeds that there is a fix in the vibration. Now, there is one particular transit that we're going to get into next that can reactivate some of the energy that happened over the course of the weekend. So I want to get this now to right about the 12:30 mark. That'll do kind of both of them. Okay. The moon is going to hit the square to Uranus. That is going to be felt the most exact between 10:30 and 12:30. So here's the moon, 29:38. Here is Uranus, 28:58. So we're just past the exact square. That was closer to that 11:30 vibration, but I want to encompass both of these simultaneously. Between 11:30 and 1:30 p.m., the moon is also going to hit an opposition to Mars. Now, remember, Uranus and Mars had an exact square over the weekend. It went exact in the overnight hours from Saturday into Sunday. There was an unexpected disruption. There was exciting activities. There was crap going on, whether it was tense, whether it was fun, whether it was risky, whether it was exciting, whether it caused fights or felt like judgment. And there's something about this energy right here that feels like it's picking back up on something that happened over the weekend. Now, it could be the third party coming in going, yeah, I decided to fire him on Saturday. I fired them over the weekend. Think of it that way. The unexpected termination. That could be a very big part of it. And I know a lot of people actually had like last minute things on Friday and Saturday that they did get fired because y'all were in my DMs or somebody around you got fired. And again, y'all were in my DMs. This feels like the third party coming in. So it's like weekend management made a decision and the store manager doesn't know until they come in on Monday. Now, it doesn't always have to be exact to this hour. This is the human effect. Like this, you can hear about it first thing in the morning. But in the regards to how this vibration is, it talks about something being completed, something coming to a close, something coming to an end. Because this is the last full day of Mars in Leo. It is hitting that opposition to the moon in Aquarius before these two change signs. These two go into a different direction. So there is something that speaks to that midday vibration on Monday of a completion, but in a lot of ways of a completion so something else can begin, so something else can start, so something else can move forward. Now, after this T-square vibration at 1:09 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm bumping this now to 1:30, the moon goes into Pisces. Now, I want to do a special note with the moon in Pisces this time. We are building to a square between Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune being in the higher authority, but Jupiter newly in Cancer. Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. By the end of the moon in Pisces transit, the Jupiter-Neptune square will go exact. That's going to be on Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, especially once the moon goes into Pisces, it feels healing. It feels emotional. It feels like exuding vibration kind of coming through and feeding into certain things. And I feel like there is a new emotional response that's going to be coming through that inspires, for some, transition, that new vibration. It inspires an activity. That's the positive way to look at what's going on. The negative way can be because something did just go wrong. We had a fight at work over the weekend, and maybe you don't get fired until you go in on Monday. That could be a part of it too. And then, of course, emotional responses will follow. But after certain people get fired, they don't always tell the truth about what they did, what their actions were. They make it sound like other people caused the problem. And be aware of, once the moon goes into Pisces, that the versions of the story, the versions of the truth, the versions of the reality that are coming through, because some of what is being said is meant to instigate certain reactions in some people and kind of, again, fuel the focus and the belief of how something is going to go, whether that is positive or negative. Now, some people, you're going to have great emotional conversations once the moon goes into Pisces, but for other people, those lies, the frauds, the deception, y'all know how I feel about that. The other likelihood can be something tied to treatments. And if we have to do something different in our medicine, doing something different in our treatments, that's neutral to me. I don't want to say that's heavy. I don't want to say it's good, bad, or anything along those lines, but that can be a very big part of the conversation as well as we get to the second half of Monday, once the moon goes into Pisces. And we'll be dealing with it for the next few days, so be aware of that. Now, the moon is in Pisces, and the first thing the moon is going to do once it goes into Pisces is between 3 and 5 p.m., the moon is going to go into a trine, so trines are triangles, with Jupiter. The moon is in Jupiter sign. Jupiter is in the moon sign. These two are in mutual reception. And there's something about like what we need to start doing to heal, what we need to start doing to fix the situation, what we need to start doing to influence, to create something. And again, so much of this can kind of speak to what we need moving forward in regards to where we're going to have new rules and guidelines. But the rules and guidelines are not in this moment. Sometimes we need the emotional outpouring, the emotional response, the creative response, the inspiration, those little hits of nostalgia, the little hits of understanding before we can reach the point of, all right, we can create some new rules from here. This feels hopeful. This feels healing. This feels emotional for a lot of people. It feels very, very emotional. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just be aware of that. Okay, the moon's trine to Jupiter is felt the most exact between 3 and 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Then after that, of course, the moon's going to be in Pisces all the rest of the day, but there are no more direct transits until we get into the 17th. Now, we're into Tuesday, and the first thing that's going to happen, we're going to get this to 2:30, this is when Chiron hits that exact sextile to the sun. Chiron is the wounded healer, but Chiron is in Mars' sign. Mars is in the sun sign. So this is really interesting because for some people, the only way to fix something, going off of the idea of Chiron here, is to change the rules. It's to change the action. It's to stop being stubborn and accept new rules, new ways of communicating, new processes, new procedures, new things need to go into effect. It's accepting it. And there's something about this that speaks to an awareness that a change is necessary, that the only way to fix a situation is to do something different. What I'm looking at is when Chiron goes through that exact sextile to the sun, Mars is at what, like an hour? Yeah, an hour away from going into Virgo. Mars will actually go into Virgo at 3:36 a.m. Central Standard Time, so bump that to 4:30. But here you go. Mars goes into Virgo. There's something about the fix. There's something about the attitude. There's something about where we've had wounds and what's creating the new rules, the new communication, the new boundaries, the new thing coming through. The shift of awareness and information, the shift in the rules, the shift in the guidelines, the shift in the process, the shift in how we are of service. So the shift in the workforce once Mars goes into Virgo, because whenever we're talking about being of service, for some people that's military, but some people that is literally being a waitress, because all a waitress does is serve and clean. A lot of that too. Okay. Mars goes into Virgo at 3:36 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is going to be felt. This will be felt. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to almost ground them and kind of create a new vibration towards productivity, but maybe not all initially. That might take a few more days, given the fact that the moon is in Pisces. Sometimes we just need to work through our emotions before we can take certain actions. And I want people to be aware of that too. Okay, now moving along. As the day progresses between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Pisces is going to make a sextile to Venus. I love that skirt. I love the way this looks. You did so good. This looks so great. This tastes amazing. Oh, this makes my heart feel so good. I haven't had this kind of cooking in so long. I haven't had this dish in so long. I haven't done this in so long. This feels supportive. It's going to lunch. It's having that little guilty pleasure type of vibration. This does not feel heavy at all whatsoever. It feels supportive. It feels fun. It feels light. It feels soothing. It feels comforting when the moon hits the sextile to Venus. Comforting someone about how good they look, how well something has come out, about the appearance of something, what changed, what brought us here. In addition to that, it can also be like, if we do this one or two more things, I bet it would look better. I bet it would work better. I bet this could happen. I bet we could do this. And when the moon hitting that sextile to Venus right here, again, this feels supportive. This feels helpful. It does not feel heavy at all. As the day progresses, we get into the evening time between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon in Pisces is going to make a trine to Mercury. This might be when we start to talk about what we need to talk about. The new rules, the new process, the new procedure. Are we acting upon them quite yet? No, this feels like an initiation of something, an initiation of certain information, a certain conversation that is being had that, again, for some people can kind of fuel a belief of how the summer is going to go, how we are moving forward from here. I mean it when I keep saying the term fueling beliefs, because I've said it multiple times over the last few months. There's something about inspiring an action or a reaction, or creating something new in regards to the policy, the procedures, something going on in the workforce. There's something about the new, because now Mercury is hosting that brand new Mars. We're not immediately making an action on something. We're not. But we are aware, very aware, that something needs to shift. And this can be where we start talking about, I think it'll work if we go this route. I think I can make this work. I think I can make this happen. I think I should go here pay for this, go do this. And this can have to do with travel. This can have to do with our cars. This can have to do with some level of communication, whether it is physical, like going somewhere, physically writing something out, or just talking out the plan. But there is an activity of mental and emotional movement all at once. And I feel like you're really going to feel it as we go into the evening on the 17th. Now, after this, I think our minds are going to be kind of busy, whether it's an emotional busy or just an inspired busy. There's a busyness there that can't be ignored. And as we go into the evening time and we start progressing into the 18th, we actually get to the moon's conjunction to the north node. That actually happens in the overnight hours between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now at 4:30. The north node is the head of the dragon, what we desire, what we are hoping for. This is the first moon north node conjunction since Jupiter went into the moon sign. In the overnight hours from the 17th to the 18th, I feel like in the late part of Tuesday on the 17th, we can start communicating something that we weren't even aware of before, new ideas, new vibration. But then in the overnight hours, that download of where we feel called to go, what we feel called to do, where our vibration is shifting us. This is a heavy download, crazy dream, waking up feeling like you need to take some kind of action, waking up feeling like something's about to happen, but it's not necessarily happening quite yet. Waking up and hearing a certain song in your head that's letting you know how the vibration is going to go. This feels timely. And considering the rest of the transits that are going to be happening over the course of the 18th, again, be aware of the downloads and however you receive them. Okay, moving along. That happens in the overnight hours. The next thing that occurs doesn't actually happen until we get into parts of the daytime, ironically enough. So we're going to get this to the 2:30 time frame. And what's going to happen is the moon is going to hit a square to the sun. So this is the last quarter moon. And we're going to start dwindling down into the new vibration. We're starting to really disconnect from where that full moon was, but we're still talking about the moon in a Jupiterian sign. The last full moon was in a Jupiter sign. This quarter moon is in a Jupiter sign. That new moon that's going to happen on the 25th is going to be in a conjunction to Jupiter. So we're very clued into the Jupiter part of this vibration that's flowing in. This can be emotion to logic, emotion to planning, emotion to conversation, given that the moon is in Pisces, making that square to the sun in Gemini. Some of us are going to be needing to talk about our emotions in a multitude of ways. There is more going on. So we're going to keep this going. Right after the moon goes through its square to the sun, it's going to enter a sextile to Uranus. That's going to happen between 3 and 5:30 p.m. This is exciting. This is unexpected. This is something with communication, something with technology, just hearing something unexpectedly. Oh, I didn't know this. Oh, this was different. Oh, that's kind of crazy. The moon hitting that sextile to Uranus. After that, at 6:08 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Aries. Now, when the moon goes into Aries, usually I would just go into this feels like raw reaction. We have a lot of things coming through. But for the first time again since September, Mars is in a different sign than where we've dealt with. Mars is now in Virgo, newly in Virgo. There's something about when the moon goes into Aries, knowing that Mars is still at that 0 degree of Virgo. This feels like whenever we start to talk about, argue about, disrupt the rules, the policies, and the procedure. Especially because as soon as the moon goes into Aries, it's going to hit that conjunction to Saturn. It's going to hit that conjunction to Neptune, the square to Jupiter, while the Neptune-Jupiter square is going exact. Whatever happened the last few days while the moon is in Pisces has inspired something to change. It inspired this new reaction that's about to come through. But once the moon goes into Aries, the action is going to be based off the laws, the rules, the policies, whatever we are dealing with in this regard. It can be a little hot-headed, especially in the very beginning, but for a lot of other people, it feels very, very motivating. but this motivation comes with terms and conditions. And I wouldn't normally say that, but that's what this feels like. Be very, very aware of what we're feeling and dealing with once the moon goes into Aries, because it's going to go really quick over the course of the rest of the day on Wednesday. So again, the moon goes into Aries. You can see that right here. Between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Saturn. This is having a conversation with the elder. This is having a plan with the boss. This is getting some kind of a get together agreement. There can be judgment in this vibration because, again, it's Saturn. But in addition to this, look at Neptune and Jupiter. Neptune is at 2 degrees, 6 minutes. Here's Jupiter, 2 degrees, 5 minutes. What we can be getting approval of, what we can be getting told by the authority figure can be what's fueling that next part, that belief, that move forward. It can be a part of that fueling vibration. So be aware of this. Okay. The moon's conjunction to Saturn. We're having a meeting with the authority figure, with the elder. We are talking about our responsibilities. We are getting told certain responsibilities. We're getting pushed. We have some level of judgment, some kind of idea more than anything, being communicated, being issued in information. That's a big one too. Now, as the evening progresses, we're going to bump this now to about 9:30 because that's going to take care of everything. So the moon is going to hit the conjunction to Neptune. It is going to hit the square to Jupiter simultaneously. Between 9:29 and 11:13 p.m., this is when Neptune and Jupiter are in their exact square. At this moment on the screen, at this 9:30 moment, the moon is still loosely in that conjunction to Saturn while it's entering that conjunction to Neptune. The approval from the boss, the authority figure, the judgment from the elder, the boss, the authority figure, can fuel what is being spoken, what is being revealed, what is being worked on, what is being talked about. It can be where we have that moment of, here's my version of the truth. Here's my version of reality. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how something's going to go. And for some of us, whatever this is, it does feel like permission. It does feel like, again, that's that push towards the steps that move forward from here. But the other part of that is there's a lot of this we do not see clearly. And we either have to really trust our intuition or be very, very aware of where the facts, the figures, the receipts are actually taking place. If you are signing off on things, you need to be very aware of what you're signing off on what's getting agreed upon. Since so much of this summer fuels into what's going to be happening in eclipse season, I'm not going to say the Mercury retrograde, but just eclipse season also, we have 2 new moons in Virgo, and one of those 2 happen at 0 degrees of Virgo, where Mars is at when this happens. This is, again, that beginning of the dominoes falling down. This is still a part of that. So there can be something directly about this June 18th timeframe that ends up impacting us, not just in the Mercury retrograde, but in Virgo eclipse season, because we're going to have 2 new moons in Virgo. The first one will not be an eclipse, but where Mars is right now, yeah, that's where that new moon's going to be. We are setting some long-term decisions, long-term agreements, long-term beliefs of how things are going to progress from here. And for some people, this is inspired. This is nostalgia. This is over romanticized. This has all the promise and all the hope because it is Neptune. For other people, it is the lies, the fraud, and the deception because it is Neptune. And it can be the authority figures that have lied to us because it's Saturn and Neptune. Beyond that, for some people, it's going to have to do with, this is going to be the care that is necessary around the elders. And what we have to deal with over the course of the summer is all of the treatments going off the neutral. If it's not the positive or negative, we can always talk about the health aspect, and I want to keep that as neutral as possible. Oh, it's going to be a busy evening Wednesday night. Busy, no doubt about it. Moving this along. Okay. After that, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., so going from the 18th to the 19th, Pluto is going to hit a sextile to the moon. Now, this is actually going to go exact right around that midnight hour. And for some people, whatever we agree to, whatever has been inspired, whatever version of the story has come out, whatever has been a part of this energy, it can trigger an old fear, an old insecurity. We can be talking about things from the past. We can be talking about other levels of frustration that we haven't dealt with in a long time. There can be something additional in this vibration where we have to overcome certain fears. I'm not saying don't make the decisions and don't make the commitments. I'm saying we have to make those commitments and knowing that only so much is going to be true. And some of us might be going to bed late on Wednesday, going into, again, Thursday, feeling really heavy because that Pluto sextile to the moon after everything else that has happened, that can feel very, very weighted in regards to that fear, past power struggles, tensions, frustrations, and things along these lines. Now, getting into Thursday, there's not as much going on in the transits, honestly. It's the Pluto energy more than anything that starts the overnight hours. And I feel like there's a kind of a tension over the course of the day on Thursday of like some of the actions that are being said, some of the verbiage that's coming out, some of the conversations that are being had. Some people do not want to admit to it. Some people do not want to take responsibility. Some people are doing certain things that just kind of piss other people off. Some of the things that we're starting to uncover, that we're starting to unravel, that we're starting to talk about, that are starting to come to the surface, other people don't want to believe is real. Again, there feels like this tension of not seeing eye to eye in the air all throughout the day on Thursday. But whatever is we're not seeing eye to eye about, or we're not sure about, or we're not accustomed to, like the action that we're taking is just kind of against our norm. We wouldn't normally do certain things. It can be a tension. It can be an awkwardness. It can be frustration. It can lead to arguments. The moon is in Aries. But there can also be that uncovering of certain information that creates tension, that creates fights, and it just kind of puts you more and more like, I don't ever want to be around this person again. I don't trust this person. I don't want to be a part of this, in the negative. In other ways, it's like all the things I have to do that I haven't been taking care of in a while, and all the actions to get something ready, to get something prepared. There's no other direct transit to Thursday besides the moon Pluto sextile. So there's going to be other things that happen over the course of the day that just need to happen the way that they happen. Now we're going to get into the 20th. Okay. Over the course of the overnight hours between 4:30 and 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this down at 5:30, the moon in Mars' sign is going to hit a square to Mercury. Now, there's this interesting little trifecta going on that I haven't really hit on, but now I want to. Remember, and I'm literally going to use my hands now to explain this little trifecta, by the way. So, trifecta, triplicity, this type of thing. The moon is in Mars' sign. Mars is in Mercury's sign, but Mercury's in the moon sign. So this is what I mean by the trifecta. Be aware of what Virgo represents for you. Be aware of what Aries represents for you, and Cancer, because again, we have all this energy that speaks to cardinal, but at the same time, we also speak to changes. And some of the changes that need to start coming through and they really need to start being addressed, we need to have certain conversations ahead of time to really make that addressing make sense. And there can be tension, there can be frustration, there can be questioning in this energy. I only took the camera off for just a second so I can explain that triplicity thing. The moon hitting that square to Mercury, the moon being in Mars' sign, and Mars still being in that new vibration of Virgo, hosting that cardinal energy, being hosted by cardinal energy. It's like whatever starts to come to the surface, whatever information is starting to come up, whatever conversations are starting to come up right around this time, it can be exciting for some. Movement, a lot of movement going on, but it's like practical movement, logical movement, but there can be questioning, there can be tension about what has been uncovered, what is being understood. And again, if you are signing off on anything, whenever it comes to this week, cross your I's, dot your T's, make sure you have a copy, And if you don't understand something, like you keep going, like blurring over every time that you see this piece of paper, you need to get someone else to help you with it. You need to use your AI bot, something along these lines. Some of this communication and conversation can also lead to additional actions that are going to be taking place, or these are a part of an action. But it's a real interesting energy whenever we get into this moon square to Mercury. Now, I know this is happening in the overnight hours. It's more in the morning time. Some of us, this conversation, this communication can actually lead to all of the actions of the day, because we have a lot more transits whenever it comes to the day on Friday. So we're going to keep this going. All right. Now, once we get into the afternoon, between 2 and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Chiron. So I got this now at 2:30. Here's the moon. Here's Chiron hitting their conjunction. Seeing someone and understanding the wound, understanding the trauma, understanding an event, talking about the wound, talking about our healing process, letting someone know the actions that we've had to do to heal from something, explaining something from the past that people did not necessarily know as to why a wound was what it was, how it became what it became. Addressing the wound, addressing the healing, addressing the fix when the moon hits the conjunction of Chiron. Doesn't have to be a heavy energy, but I am still looking at the fact that this is happening in Mars' sign, and Mars is newly in Virgo. So it feels like we can still be uncovering certain things, not knowing just how deep or far back a wound can go. Okay. Now, between 8 and 10 p.m., we have this real interesting energy where the moon is going to hit a sextile to the sun. I want to get this to that 8:30 mark. And I want to talk about what's going on in this evening time frame. The moon and the sun are going to hit the sextile at the very edge of Aries and Gemini. And over the same 2-hour span, they're going to change signs. Some of us are going to go somewhere for the last time, go do something for the last time, with the idea that we're going to complete it. This completion doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel strained. And it doesn't have to. Now, if we're dealing with more of the informational mental energy, it can be like, once you have a certain conversation and you hear something for the last time, you're like, oh, no, nope, not doing this. Don't believe you. That can't be real. And that can be a part of this too. But considering both of them hit their sextile again at the end of signs and then transition into a new sign, that transition is going to bring certain things to the surface. People talking about their emotions, talking about what they have found, talking about the new rules, talking about new ideas, and like, this is what I need from you moving forward. This is what I need from you to continue. And that can be a big part of the late night conversations on Friday. At 8:53 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Taurus. And then at 9:43 p.m., the sun is going to go into Cancer. Again, there is something about this vibration that speaks to when the moon goes from Aries to Taurus, something transitions into new. Something gets completed in some ways. Conversations get completed. Certain beliefs about something get completed. And now we arrive to something new, something that is meant to be there for the long term. Once we hear something being said, once we commit to something being said, once we commit to a certain idea, the moon going into Taurus is exalted. It's solid. It wants something to feel comfortable. And for some of us, what we need to communicate for somebody is that for me to be comfortable, this is how we need to talk. This is how something needs to go. This is how something goes from here. And for a lot of people, that can be really rough. But for other people, it's the waning, and it's like letting our guard down so something can happen more emotionally, more comfortably, versus feeling forced all the time. The moon in Taurus is all about creature comforts. I want to have the fatty foods. I want to have the junk food. I want to be comfortable. I want brand new sheets on my bed. I want the high count. I want to be comfortable. But for a lot of people, this will be a new comfortable. once the moon goes into Taurus, simultaneously as the sun goes into Cancer. So this feels like wanting to be comfortable. And again, now we're more in this new belief, in this new reality, in this new idea of whatever has influenced the beginning part of the week from where Neptune squared Jupiter. So we're going to keep this going. Okay, the moon is now in Taurus. That's how we're going to end the day. As we go into the late night hours, starts at 11:30, goes to 12:30 into the 21st, the moon is going to hit a trine to Mars. Now, this will be the first aspect to Mars since Mars has changed signs. So you can see that right here, the moon hitting that trine to Mars. But Earth to Earth, this is productive. This is about understanding our desires, understanding what we're going to change, understanding what we need, what we've been communicating, what the new rules are, what the new policy is, what the new procedure is, what the new is, and supporting it, given again, the moon is in the trine to Mars. Now, the moon in Taurus is going to happen between 11:30 p.m. on the 20th and then 1:30 a.m. on the 21st. Now I got this on the 21st. We got this on Saturday. The moon's going to be in Taurus, of course, all day long. The moon goes from being in a trine to Mars to simultaneously after midnight being in a sextile to Jupiter. Now, the trine to Mars and sextile to Jupiter, the trine to Mars is the most exact here at this 12:30 hour. The sextile to Jupiter is actually exact closer to the 1 a.m. area. So again, this feels like hopeful, supportive, stabilizing vibration. This part does not feel heavy. We are winding down into a new moon that's going to happen next week. It's going to happen on the 25th. And there can be little bits of things right here that kind of like foreshadow an Easter egg, what's going to be starting in the new moon in Cancer, that emotional, exuding, healing vibration that's starting to come in, the new belief of whatever's coming in, whether it is true or false. We're not going to pick on that now, but we are aware. So between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Pluto is going to hit a square to the moon. I don't feel the frustration with this Pluto moon square as much as I have other transits in the past. It's more along the lines of like letting go of fear. We have so many other things that speaks to the emotions, so many other things that speaks to healing right now, or understanding our new belief moving forward, our new version of events, our new version of the truth. And for some people, if you are in a comfortable spot with the moon being in Taurus, the sun and Jupiter now in Cancer, a lot of people are hitting a comfortable spot. Sometimes once you feel safe, that's whenever you can release something, emotionally release something. And Pluto square to the moon kind of feels like that. It feels like the emotional release, letting something go, letting something move off of your chest and feeling a little bit more settled into the vibration because, again, the moon is in Taurus. Now, this is all in the overnight hours. As we continue throughout the day, the moon's going to be in Taurus all day, so it's just normal moon and Taurus stuff. I want to be comfortable. I want to be cozy. I want things to be easy. I want things to feel good. I want things to taste good. I just want to feel positive. I want to feel like things are going to go well. Now, as we continue throughout the day, it's just that exuding, ooting, allowing new things to kind of vibe and be present and be a part of the vibration. And our next transit actually does not happen until right at the end of the night, because of course it does. Between 11 p.m. on the 21st and 1 a.m. on the 22nd, the moon is going to hit a conjunction to Venus. The moon is in Venus's sign. Venus is in her home sign. So this feels safe. This feels secure. This feels connected. This feels hopeful. And considering now we're also talking about the moon hosting Mercury, Jupiter, and the sun, there is a little bit of foreshadowing even now towards what we're doing in the new moon. So this connection needs to happen a certain way. It needs to feel safe. It needs to feel connected. It needs to feel real. It needs to feel comfortable, cozy. And some of us were just talking about what we need to feel cozy, but other people were finally getting it with the moon hitting that conjunction to Venus. This is the best moon-Venus conjunction we've had in a very long time, I'll be honest with you. So accept certain things as they're coming through. allow for certain things to happen naturally, but also have that little wheel in the back of your head, being aware of certain things. Again, the moon's conjunction of Venus, it goes from 11 p.m. on the 21st. It continues into the 22nd. We're kind of get done with it right after that 1 a.m. mark. So some of us are just having a really comfortable, easy late night on Saturday going into Sunday. It does not feel heavy. It does not feel super active, but there can be things like we're doing something that we would normally not do, that we've never believed in the past, we've never been a part of in the past. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just a part of that vibration. Now, the moon's going to still be in Taurus most of the day on Sunday. And our first little transit that's going to go exact is going to be in the morning time. So this is going to go the most exact between 5:02 and 5:44 a.m. Central Standard Time. And this is where Jupiter hits its exact sextile to Mars. Jupiter again has a new belief, a new understanding, a new truth that it is in. And for this new truth to be seen, to be understood, there is an action, a disruption, whether it's pivotal or chaotic, that needs to be understood, that needs to be educated, certain amounts of guidance and faith as to what steps you take from here, because Mars is full steam ahead and charging into something new and changing our framework and changing our dialogue and changing the rules, the process, and the procedure. And this feels a lot about that changing vibration. Telling people stuff that they did not know before, that they didn't believe in before, that they've never been a part of before, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Jupiter's hitting the sextile to Mars. Now, we're in this vibration all day on Sunday. We were building to it on Saturday. This is not heavy, but it is still a big amount towards guidance. And as we continue throughout the day, this will kind of feed into, again, that shift in our mindset, the shift in the data, the shift in the details. Between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit its sextile to Mercury. Again, this is not heavy energy. Here's the moon 24 degrees, 10 minutes. Here is Mercury 24 degrees, 18. The moon is in the higher authority, and the moon is hosting that Mercury because we are comfortable in something, because we feel safe with something. We can talk about other things. We can joke a little bit more. We can allow other things to start to come through. We can put out different ideas, different focus. Again, Jupiter just had that sextile to Mars. Mars is in Mercury's sign. Just because we're doing something new, something we've never done before, doesn't mean we're doing it in a bad way. And it's like communicating, I had a different idea. Well, I understand everybody gets this thing fixated in their mind that, this is the way it goes, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more in reality. There's so much more to the process, keeping this going. Now, for some people, whatever is getting revealed is placing a new form of authority as to how something is going to go forward, a new form of responsibility that's kind of impressing an issue over the course of the day. I guess I don't mean issue. That might not be the right term. A concept. Between 1:31 p.m. and 1:55 p.m. Central Standard Time, Saturn is going to hit a square to the sun. Now remember, the weekend before, Saturn hit a square to Jupiter in this area. Now it's hitting a square to the sun. The sun is the ego. It is going to have to do with father figures. There can be certain things in regards to responsibility and authority and who's going to be responsible for what anymore. Now that we've gone into this new phase of the business, this new phase of reality, this new phase of life, starting from here, this needs to progress. Starting from here, I'm taking over. Starting from here, this is my belief. Starting from here, this is my focus. Saturn square to the sun is very much fueling a big part of the direction of the belief, the decision of the belief. It's the timing. But remember, Saturn is very heavily influenced by Neptune right now. So again, there's only so much of this we're seeing clearly, because it's very easy to over romanticize certain things. And given how much of the rest of the energy is between Taurus and Cancer, if it's comfortable, of course, we're going to believe whatever feels right, feels comfortable, feels safe, whatever feels safe. It's not always the truth, but it's whatever feels safe. Saturn square to the sun. As we get into the evening time, between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit a conjunction to Uranus. And this is the last transit we're really going to talk about. because this is a moon Uranus conjunction at that final degree of Taurus. And again, it's like doing something for the last time. It's having some kind of meeting that allows for a breakthrough of a different idea set or emotion set. It puts some new form of communication into order. It inspires a whole different reality, a whole different reaction. There's inspiration in this energy just as much as there's expect the unexpected, exciting things, doing things off the cuff, doing things off the wall, doing things that we normally would not do whenever the moon hits that conjunction to Uranus. And at 9:58 p.m., the moon is going to go into Gemini. Now, I'm not going to get too stuck on the moon in Gemini because that's more of next week. And that moon in Gemini is going to have new ideas of how we nurture something, of how we care for something. I think we need to get through this week, especially that Neptune vibration with the square to Jupiter, because we can't even understand what the Saturn Sun square means until we get through the Neptune Jupiter. But whatever happened in the Saturn Jupiter square over the course of June 14th and June 15th can be a part of the Saturn Sun square that will be a part of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. We need to be aware of that. There's something different in the idea. There's something different in the connection. There's something new that's still unfolding. There is a new belief system that is unfolding. And for some people, it is inspiring. It is hopeful. It is spiritual. It is pushing something forward that we did not know that we needed. In other people, in other ways, it is fueling the new mindset, the new truth, even if it's just a version of the truth. And you should question everything this week. You should note everything this week, because in some way, shape, or form, we will pick back up on it over the course of the fall and even in the next spring. We will. That doesn't mean that we're wrong in the moment. Sometimes we need to believe certain things so something else can fall into place. Sometimes we need to understand certain things so other things can be taught and learned and understood. Whatever happens this week needs to happen, but there's a part of this that we are not seeing clearly. It's foggy. Whether that is foggy inspiration, foggy hopefulness, foggy lies, fraud, deception. It's going to be different for everybody. There's a big element of confusion to this week. And that comes through in that Neptune vibration. If you're going through part of this week feeling confused, I understand. But it is temporary. And whenever we're in that foggy, confused energy, we don't move a whole lot. We can't do a whole lot. And I do feel like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are going to have a little bit of that. We're not doing a whole lot because we're trying to work through a fog. And I don't know that we really kind of work through it until the latter part of the week. But even in the hopeful, comforting part at the end of the week, there's still only so much of that we're seeing clearly. But for a lot more people, there needs to be something that comes to light over and over again that inspires something new. And my hope is that there's a lot more towards inspiration. But for the collective, not everybody's going to do that. And can't control. You understand what you can, you perceive what you want to perceive, and the steps you take from there are the ones that you choose. I hope you choose ones that are best for you and the people that you love. All the way around. We don't always have to be selfish about things. So there's that. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.